episode's about a week late. And so Stephon Diggs was traded to the Houston Texans, now going on past a week. And there's a lot to dissect here. We'll get into everything. We'll talk about everything we can related to this trade. We're gonna try our best because it's the only thing everybody's been talking about on Twitter for the last year. It feels like. Diggs was traded. Second round pick is going to Buffalo. I'm just going to disregard the late round picks just because that's irrelevant.
I think it's pretty relevant.
We'll talk about
in the 5th round.
All right.
I mean,
we'll go into the nitty gritty, I guess. So we will talk about the late round picks, but for starters, we're going to give our grades for each team in the trade. We'll go one by one around the table and kind of just give our 2 cents on it. And I'm going to actually start with Trent because I haven't heard his opinion on this trade at all. The Texans and the Bills make this move. Who do you got coming out on top in this trade?
Stephon Diggs. Neither team wins this trade. It's the first trade I have ever seen where both teams lose. It's immaculate. Like, the Bills lose because they have to take on $4 million extra, plus Diggs' whole salary for him just not to be there. And the Texans traded away a second-round pick for a 1-year rental for a guy who is likely going to be their number 3 option. So, and they're paying him $22 million. So, nobody won this trade. This is an exclusive in the NFL. The first time a player won a trade between 2 teams.
I had seen something on Twitter, I don't know, not too long ago, where someone said his agent is absolutely in his bag right now because when you think about it, Diggs got paid as a top 3 wide receiver, making $30 million a year, and then he goes to get traded to the Texans, which is what he wanted to happen according to Joe Mixon, who said they've been trying to get that done for a couple weeks. And then he goes to the Texans, right?
Yeah.
And he's able to renegotiate his contract, so he still gets this money, but he's able to hit free agency and make another contract. That's insane. He made up.
He earns another contract.
Yeah,
he's going to.
That's elite brokerage right there.
It is, and I honestly think even if the guy tore his ACL in training camp, he's still gonna get a really good amount of money on the open market.
I mean,
off of name value.
Yeah, the name of that check gonna be Jerry Jones.
I agree. I think he's going to Dallas.
I told my old man this as soon as he got traded to Houston, and I sat and I thought about it. I began thinking there's a possibility that every team he asked probably gave no compensation or nothing to it. So he's like, well, what's the team closest to Dallas? And I'll just go there. Yeah. I mean, he's 100% playing with Dallas.
I don't think he gave a fuck about what the Bills got in compensation. They could have got a fucking 8th round pick, and he wouldn't have cared.
Well, to be fair, I mean, that's about, if you look at what Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, and receivers of, hey, we just don't want this guy anymore. That's about what they get. So getting us, basically the Bills traded up in the draft. That's the best way to look at it.
I'll go to Mike. He and I kind of shared this similar opinion on it just because we liked what the Bills were able to get in return considering the circumstances. So what do you think, Mike? What do you think of this move?
Yeah, I mean, to be able to get seemingly a high 2nd round pick for Diggs honestly blew my mind because you've seen players who were just way better, like Jalen Ramsey didn't even go for that, and he was coming off like an all-pro season. You know what I mean? And I think, I think I'd give the Bills a B+ because of the compensation they were able to get. And sure, it kind of sucks this year, but going down the road, Bean saved himself from getting into a really shitty contract that he should have never given Diggs in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans, I'd give them like a C because I'd give them like a C+ because they have the upside where that trio can be unstoppable. You know what I mean? That offense is loaded. But at the same time, that offense would have been really cool in 2018. It's not 2018 anymore. You know, like it just could go either way.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. I share a lot of the similar thoughts you have. You know, the Texans for me, like, it wasn't a necessary move. They have Tank Dell. They have Nico Collins, who they're going to have to pay next offseason anyways. They paid Joe Mixon, and then they paid Stephon Diggs. All right. To me, those two moves, I don't get. I like the Daniil Hunter move. I like the other moves they made, Azeez Al-Shire. They made some nice moves, but those two were questionable to me. Like, Joe Mixon, he wasn't even wanted in Cincinnati. There's a reason a team that is competing against the Texans in the AFC traded him to a competitor.
Because he was good, though.
Yeah, but they're comfortable enough to say, you know what, you can go play for Houston while you pay him, you know, what is it, I think 3 years, like 20-something mil. Like,
true.
He, to me, the value of that contract with his age and the tread on the tire, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But putting that aside, like, the Diggs move, it's a 1-year rental at this point. And I've been getting into a lot of arguments on the page about this because a lot of Texans fans and even Bills fans are like, oh, Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver. People need to realize, like, his target share in a Texans offense versus the Bills offense, where he's a clear-cut number 1 guy, it's going to be a different story. He's not going to be getting 100 catches a year, 1,500 yards. Like, he's going to be – he might be the number 1 option, but he's not going to be even close to the amounts of – you're not even getting close to the same amount of production. So, for me, I like the compensation we got. It's a high second-round pick, and I even discussed this with someone earlier. Like, A.J. Brown got traded for the 25th pick of the draft. And this is maybe, okay, I don't know, 15 picks later for somebody who's in his 30s and, you know, is only going to be regressing. So I just think the Bills did very well in terms of compensation.
I guess I never gave a official letter grade on it. We'll go Bills C+. We'll go Texans C because, yeah,
I respect it. I mean, the Bills could very well miss on that draft pick and can end up like just looking like not a good move. Like from a financial standpoint, it was a disaster. Like that contract was just not good from the start. It was way too much money. 30+ million a year. I like paying those those playmakers, but you got to remember, like, this is a guy that comes with a lot of baggage, and he's very volatile, and he has now left 2 organizations that have basically given him everything he's needed. So,
yeah,
that's another reason why I don't like the move for the Texans, because like, why would you want that near your young quarterback? Like,
can I play devil's advocate real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Diggs, in the beginning of his career, the first 5 years of Minnesota, he was the wide receiver too to Adam Thielen. Mm-hmm. And in those years he put up quality numbers with decent targets. You know what I mean? Like 2016, 112 targets, 84 catches, 900 yards. The Texans would take that. You know what I mean? 64 catches off 95 targets, 850 yards, 8 touchdowns. The Texans would take that all day long.
Would you take that? My whole thing is like, what if you're only getting 1 year of that?
Here's my thing.
Is it worth? Because here's the thing. They traded out of the first round to get that second-round pick from Minnesota.
True, but here's my thing.
They lost really good draft position for a potential day 1 player, and they gave that up for a 1-year rental. So
I'm going to tell you exactly why they did.
It's worth it?
Yes, because I'm going to tell you exactly why they did that. They already fucked up with one franchise quarterback this decade. Yes, after he demanded to be traded and he sat out that year, he allegedly became a rapist, okay? But
25
they already fucked up the Deshaun Watson. That was their guy.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off that before he was suspended and all the other bullshit, He led the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns.
Yeah, he was crazy that year. I know what you're talking
And to have to move off that, I think the front office realizes like, okay, we have our guy. We need to make him happy. We need to develop this team. I don't think they expected him to be this good. I really don't. I think they, expected a solid rookie year, but I think they expected last year to be this year. You know what I mean? And then they would try to progress the roster. But I think they
Yeah.
realize they have that rookie contract now. He's good enough now. We have the money now. Let's just say fuck it and give it a shot now.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I think that's the other side of it. It's like, let's just be super aggressive. We're in the AFC. We're competing against Patrick Mahomes. We have to give it our absolute best. And I understand that. But like, wouldn't you want to like go for somebody else though? Like,
they
like,
tried to get Keenan.
yeah. I
They
mean,
were in it. They were in it for Keenan. You know what I mean? And I
I
feel
would
like
I would have
other than
much
that,
rather had them go for not Tyler Boyd, but somebody in
Diggs
the
is better
bucket
though.
of receiver of I don't know if it's worth that risk. I really don't, because
They got
if
out of
you
the
get
deal.
yeah,
There's no
if
more risk.
I know it's just really it's a tricky situation because the Texans could absolutely do really well in this trade, or they could absolutely have been fleeced. Like, I feel like there's no middle ground at
They're
all.
only fleeced if the Bills hit on this pick.
I
Or if
don't
they
think
move, or if this pick is packaged to go get a guy and then it hits. Like when the Bills traded for Diggs and the Vikings took Jefferson, that is why people are like, "Oh my god, like what a great trade." But if they had
Yeah,
taken Jalen Rager instead, people would have been like, "Man, the Bills fucked the Vikings on that trade."
yeah. I also like
Mike.
I. This is a bit
Mike's fired
separate.
up, man.
This is a bit of a separate discussion, but it's branching off of what you're saying. Like, the Diggs for Jefferson deal. I feel like those trades, you just can't use the draft pick, the player that they drafted, and compare him to the guy you gave up, because for one, before the trade, the Vikings didn't know they were getting Jefferson, and they also, it's completely dependent on your scouting. I feel like if your scouting department likes a guy, that has nothing to do with the trade. It's just depending on where you land, and I just think it's a separate transaction, the draft pick itself. So that's just how I've always viewed those kind of trades. I look at the draft value itself, because teams aren't going to be like, "Oh, I'm trading Justin Jefferson for Stephon Diggs." That's just not how it's viewed.
True. I think they look at it how you just said, where they look at
Yeah,
the
like
value of
the
the pick.
value of the pick. So, to me, when people say that, I think it's a little unfair, even for you know teams the Bills have traded with and given up draft picks for players like Rasul Douglas and stuff. Like, it's the value of the pick, not the player that they're taking.
True.
Trent, we haven't heard from you in a minute. You got
Yeah,
anything?
Mike's been
Yeah,
going.
he's fuming.
Cooking
Man,
it.
Mike, you are hot about
Yep.
this. First of all, I just want to address something where I saw somebody say, teams are going to be viewing the Texans as the model, just like we said the same thing about the Rams. And again, this only works in extreme circumstances when you have a quarterback that quits on the team, then also turns out to be a piece of shit. Then, you fleece a team out of all the draft picks. Yeah, I hope to God you hit on them. Otherwise, you end up looking like the Browns from 2011, where they got a boatload of picks for the Julio Jones trade, and then they whiffed on every one of them.
Yeah.
Um, this trade, I don't think you can ever say that Stephon Diggs fleeced both teams. Like, we can't say, oh, the Bills got fleeced. Oh, the Texans got fleeced. Really, the Bills got fleeced because they gave up Stephon Diggs. The Texans got fleeced because they gave up picks for 1 year of 30-year-old Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
We did
Really
he
good though.
I mean, did he quit on the team? I mean, I could tell you from experience before I even saw anybody. I saw the Last Chance U coach talk about this, which is something I had
Jason
noticed.
Brown, I saw that.
I I think I told you that during the year, Ben, that like you could tell what the Bills were doing if you just watched Stephon Diggs. Like
Yeah.
if he was ready to go, lined up, ready to run a route, you're like, okay, they're passing. If you saw him and looked like like when Mike tries to run pickup route run, you
True.
know, oh, they're running.
True.
Yeah.
So again, it's the I don't think, and also go back on the trade value point. The Bills gave the pick to the Chiefs for Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would still do that trade 10 times out of 10 because that Pat Mahomes on the 2017 Buffalo Bills, he's good, but he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Like the
Oh my
Bills
god.
got the foundation of their football team off of that trade. I mean, they got Trey White, who was arguably their best player when they went back to playoffs 2019. Deion Dawkins, who's been a stalwart of the team. They got picks that were used to trade for Josh Allen. I mean, like those were now two are the fundamental pieces of your franchise. So you can't just go, oh, look at the result and say it was a good or bad trade. You have to like the infamous the Saints traded their whole draft to get Ricky Williams. You know, if Ricky Williams had lived up to his potential, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals look really stupid for not doing it, even though they were trying to do a similar offer. I mean, you can't look at football trades and just be like, "Oh, well, you know, the draft fell one way, and that could have worked out well for him." It's like redrafts. Like, yeah, obviously people are going to pick J.J. Watt first overall if they could get the chance to know that he was J.J. Watt, but you don't. You don't get a crystal ball. You don't get to see, you know, who's going to do what. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the Denver Broncos would have picked Josh Allen instead of Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, for sure.
I need to get this off my chest.
What's up?
Okay.
Oh.
So I would never, ever, ever redo that 2017 trade ever again.
Oh,
And
Mike.
this is why. Okay, because
Are you mad
let's say
Pat Mahomes beats us every year?
listen. Let's say for the last 3 years, right? We all viewed the Bills as Super Bowl contenders, correct?
Yeah.
And obviously, for the last since Mahomes has been in the league, they've been a Super Bowl contender and they've won Super Bowls. If do you think if you swapped, like pretend Josh Allen just didn't exist, okay? Do you think if you swapped Tre'Davious White and Deion Dawkins with Pat Mahomes, like rookie Mahomes, that the Chiefs would be better off in the long run? Or the Bills?
No.
Let me get that full trade here because I remember this trade, and I mean, pretty much the story of it goes was that Sean McDermott looked at the 2017 Buffalo Bills and said, "This is not a place for a rookie quarterback," and he's correct. Like we were playing Nathan Peterman because that's all we had. Like we were cooked. We're out of ideas. Are you telling me Patrick Mahomes, who basically got through a redshirt year and playing for the best offensive mind in football, would have turned into Patrick Mahomes? It's
Is that on
possible.
Mahomes or is that on the personnel? Because that says
It's
a lot about the Bills personnel than it does about Patrick
I,
Mahomes to me.
the 2017 Buffalo Bills personnel, Rick Dennison as your offensive coordinator, dog. Like, I know that people probably listen to this podcast are a bit younger. I know the memory's hard to remember. There was a time where LaShawn McCoy was the only person on that offense worth a damn with a stout offensive line. They Josh Allen in 2018 was playing on essentially the same team with a worse offensive line, and we saw how that was a
Josh Allen was
monumental
not good
train
his
wreck.
first 2 years.
Uh,
He had a lot of mechanical woes.
you're not gonna tell me something I didn't know. He had a lot of bad throws, but then he did the cool throw to Robert Foster. You're like, oh, there's something here.
I think if
Patrick,
the Bills took Mahomes, they would have won a Super Bowl already.
I
At least one.
all right.
I don't agree personally, and here's my take because I haven't been able to speak on
We for a little behind the curtain. I went to Mike. I was like, "Hey, Mike, you got anything spicy for this episode?" He's like, "Maybe we got our spicy
it.
quote."
Yeah. So I don't think he wins the Super Bowl with the Bills, and it's not because I don't think he'd be good here. It's just because quarterback development and player development is just it's hard to predict. And let's say, okay, 2017, you're plugging Patrick Mahomes in. I'll ask you guys this: does he beat Tyrod for the starting job?
Yes.
Okay, so he's starting 2017. His offensive line, not good. His running back LaShawn McCoy, he's
Didn't they still have
fading.
Eric Wood and Incognito in 2017?
They
Yeah,
had
Wasn't
but
Eric Wood.
Incognito
the
like a
rest of the
all pro
line
in
was just
2017?
bad. I don't think so. He's got no playmakers. His offensive coordinator is Rick Dennison, who is arguably probably the worst offensive coordinator I've ever had in my lifetime. And he's just not going to be.
Enough.
It's not a favorable situation.
So 1 year under Andy Reid,
if you watch Patrick's
Mahomes'
games,
rookie season had 5,000 passing yards and 50 touchdowns. A 2-to-1 passing touchdown to interception ratio on 50 touchdowns.
He had a full year to redshirt, completely fix his mechanics.
And he won MVP his rookie year.
He worked with Andy Reid. Just a brilliant offensive mind. He had Travis Kelce at his disposal. Tyreek Hill was still there. They had a really good offensive line.
Becoming a receiver then. He was just coming off being like an all-pro returner.
Don't forget, they had probably, at the time, a top 3 running back in the NFL, Kareem Hunt. And to me, it's just unfair to say, oh yeah, he'd do well in the Bills, because it's the complete other end of the spectrum. Like, Mahomes was given everything in Kansas City, and then to say that he would have the same amount of success on a team that had literally the opposite amount, like, it's so hard to predict that. But I would just say no, he's not going to win a Super Bowl with the Bills, just because they couldn't develop anybody. They didn't have the staff in place yet. They didn't have Brian Daboll in the door yet. And, it may have been a disaster, quite frankly.
This goes to show.
They needed to build their roster. They didn't have a team. There's a reason they traded back and got more picks, is because they knew they needed to get more guys. They needed to build a team, and Patrick Mahomes was nowhere near going to be in a situation that is favorable for a player like that because of how bad the roster was. That's just my opinion.
So a big thing that stuck out to me with that is that you said they gave Patrick Mahomes absolutely everything he could possibly fathom to succeed. And
Correct.
I feel like Josh Allen has never had every single ingredient to possibly succeed at the same time. When he had prime Diggs, we really didn't have a running game. Now that we have a running game, Diggs isn't really an option. Now we have the running game, and we just have a bunch of dudes and Dalton Kincaid as receiving options.
Yeah,
I think that's a problem.
I guess that will lead us into our next discussion, because I had mentioned
I would like one last point.
Yeah, go ahead,
Mike. Thing about Andy Reid. Mike, there's a quarterback I want you to look up. His name is Donovan McNabb. Take a look at how his first couple seasons went, and then come back to me and let me know about how much Andy Reid does really well with rookie quarterbacks, and just let me know.
I'll let you know right now.
Oh boy.
So we'll go with his full rookie season in Philly. Okay.
He didn't play his full rookie season. He only played half of it.
6 games. So in 2000 was that's what I'm basing on. 2000.
Yeah.
He passed for 3,300 yards, 21 tuds, 13 picks. Okay. He was 24 years old. You go to when he was 33 years old, 3,500 yards, 22 passing touchdowns, 10 picks. Next year, Washington, 3,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 15 picks. McNabb was the same guy throughout his whole career, pretty much. He'd throw for high teens to low 20s passing touchdowns. Wouldn't throw a lot of picks until he got to the very end, and threw for 3,300 yards. A lot.
Yeah, his coach was Andy Reid. I mean, the whole point of this is to put a bow on everything. Is Patrick Mahomes the same quarterback if he goes to the Bills? Who knows? The Bills used the picks that they got from the Chiefs to draft Tre'Davious White, who became their instant starting corner after they shipped off Stephon Gilmore and Ronald Darby. They used that pick they got from the Chiefs to bundle a whole bunch of trades off of that. So they got both Zay Jones and Deion Dawkins, and that pick they got from the Chiefs turned into, I believe, Josh Allen. If not, it was Tremaine Edmonds. If it's Tremaine Edmonds, I'm going to go in the corner and cry. If it's Josh Allen, but I mean, again, it comes back to, what you do with the picks. And I mean, ultimately, the Bills were a team. The Bills and the Chiefs were 2 different points. The Chiefs were a team that was getting good but had an old quarterback. The Bills were a team that was rotten at the core and needed to basically renovate the house. Uh, and again, the stories come out. Terry Pagula wanted Patrick Mahomes, flew to the games, saw he was good. Sean McDermott said, we probably need to build a team before we build, that, put a rookie quarterback in there, which, I mean, really we saw with the first 2 years of Josh Allen. They didn't want him to be playing his rookie year, but when your other options are A.J. McCarron and Nathan Peterman,
Yeah.
Fuck
They,
Terry Pagula, sell the Sabres. On to the
yeah.
next segment.
Next.
yeah. So that leads to the next phase of the Bills' receiving core now that Diggs is gone. They currently have the 28th pick in this draft, and there is a lot of smoke about the Bills taking a receiver. I'm gonna get your guys who you guys want as the ideal replacement for Diggs. We'll get into that in a minute, but first, I'm gonna throw this hypothetical out there.
I thought you were going to say a word from our sponsor.
No sponsor.
We'll take a sponsor though.
I really wish we had a sponsor, to be honest.
That'd be great.
So here's this hypothetical for you. Would you rather have a happy Stephon Diggs, no drama, nothing, making the money he was, or would you rather have that $31 million dead cap hit this season and a brand new, shiny rookie receiver on a rookie 5-year cost-controlled contract? I'll start with Mike on this.
Okay. I'm going to say this metaphor as my girlfriend's sitting next to me.
Oh, boy.
Would you rather have a happy girlfriend or the possibility... You know what? I'm not even going to say it.
Oh,
She's going to kill me.
coward.
Anyways, fucking...
You coward.
I would... It depends on the rookie receiver. You know what I mean? Like... I mean, if you're going to go out and get like 80 Mitchell, yeah, I'd rather take the flyer on Diggs. If you're going to fuck around and go get Rome Odunze, yeah, see you later. You know what I mean? If you can go out and get any of those top 4 guys, I think a lot of people would say it's a no-brainer. But I don't know. I have a bad feeling. I mean, you texted a group chat earlier saying that Keon Coleman came in for a visit, and it's like, man, if we really fuck around and take Keon Coleman and we're running into next year, I mean, I know I said Curtis Samuel is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if we have Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman and, Mac Hollins as our top 3 guys, I think we are absolutely fucked.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Trent?
Well, that was I'm more mad at Mike for not sticking to the bit. I would have gone full commit on
I
the
wanted to
girlfriend
survive.
bit.
He backed out.
Yeah, you dipped your toe in the water and then you
And
said,
he's like, nah,
the
not
light
for me.
the lights were too
Chose
bright.
Happy Diggs. I chose Happy Diggs.
Yeah, you chose the lights were too bright. That's what you chose.
Yeah.
The lights were brighter than expected.
Yeah, the lights are too damn bright for Mike. All of a sudden, the look came over, and he felt the light from the heavens come down.
I'm gonna edit the Donald Trump of telling him to turn the lights off into the podcast.
If you can't get a picture of Mike's face over that while it's going on, that'd be perfect. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I'll get the Al Chapo picture and put it in there.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
To answer the question, now let me ask you a question.
Okay.
If we are keeping Diggs, would it
Yeah.
be known why the production dipped? Like, would we have an idea as to why the production dipped, or are
I'd
we
say no.
just going into
I'd
it?
say no.
Okay. Then, all things considered, I think I'd rather take my bet and see what we got for a rookie wide receiver. There's nothing against Stephon Diggs because the first 5 games when Stephon Diggs was lining up defenses, it was like, all right, this is a guy. And even towards the end of the year, when you see a catch and you're like, damn, that guy rules, but then disappears for half the game. I mean, the thing of it is realistically, if you're looking at his route tree. I mean, hearing the rumors about him and Josh having a disconnect, it's very clear on those deep routes they just weren't on the same page about something. Who knows? And maybe it's Diggs just doesn't have the speed he used to have. Maybe it's Josh was just putting a little too much mustard on it.
I'm gonna jump in
Who
on
knows?
that
Oh,
because I think personally, I think Diggs lost the step vertically completely. I think he doesn't have the juice he did, and that's a big reason why you haven't been seeing the deep balls connect, because I feel like Josh is a little like I don't think he has the confidence he used to have in Steph, because go back even 2 years ago. Look at a game like the Titans where we blew them out in the second game of the year. Those balls were money. He was on time. There was no doubt about it. There was no he wasn't second guessing it at all. Like it was in the money, in the breadbasket, and there was no doubt about it. And this year it just wasn't there, and I'm 99% sure it's because Stephon Diggs just doesn't have the same juice he used to have. That's just what I wanted to say. You can keep going. I just
yeah, I
want to throw
mean,
that
you're
out there.
probably not wrong. I mean, there'd be times where, very clearly, if Gabe Davis wasn't running an option route, Josh would put it right in his breadbasket too. So it could have been he was just overcompensating for Diggs' speed. Maybe, yeah, who knows? Because it was almost every Diggs deep route that he missed.
He was never a
And
burner though, like ever.
he never was a burner, but he had enough speed, and that was the biggest thing. But to
Yeah,
answer the original question here, I I think for me, truly, it depends on the receiver they get. I mean, if you tell me the Bills are going to get one of Roma Duze, Brian Thomas Jr., or Troy Franklin as their first choice receiver,
Roy
then I would say,
Franklin.
yeah. I listen, I am all for a guy who can. The biggest thing I said it a couple weeks ago. If you make Bo Nix look like a quarterback that should be drafted in the first round, I watched a lot of Bo Nix football at Auburn. I watched those SEC CBS games.
Bo
Troy
Nix
Franklin's
wasn't
the
the
real
same
deal.
quarterback, man. He
But at the
wasn't.
same time, he's a
Bo Nix is good.
24-year-old playing against 19-year-olds.
I'm gonna
I
say
hope to
this.
God that he can be better.
I think Bo Nix is a lot. He reminds me of Dak Prescott. I see a lot of those
That shouldn't be a good
similarities.
thing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's also not the worst thing in the world either. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of teams that would love to have Dak Prescott because of how bad they are. Like the Broncos are going to probably draft him in the second round and be fine with that. So
Yeah, have fun with that. But
yeah,
no,
I'm
give
glad I'm
me
not in
give
those
me
conversations anymore.
give me a Roma Duze, give me a Troy Franklin. I mean, the bits I've
Yeah,
seen of Brian Thomas Jr., maybe him too. I mean, I've always been skeptical once I learn English,
yeah,
of wide receiver number twos on good teams because you know, like we've seen now, AJ Brown clearly was number one, DK was clearly a number two. Um, would I like
Holy
either one of
shit.
those? Yeah, I would take either one of those. But
Holy fucking shit.
What do you have to
What?
say, Mike?
What?
did you miss the whole thing where they went to the same college?
I
They're on the
mean,
same team
yes.
at the same time.
But
Dawson Knox
okay.
was the tight end, and the part where I said I'd take
DK
both of them.
Metcalf.
But
What? What how you think DK Metcalf right now is a wide receiver number 2?
of the two of them,
I'm saying like on
Are
his
you like
individual
ranking
teams,
them? Is that what you're doing, Trent? Or like you're ranking them?
I mean, yeah,
like
that's
coming
part
into the
of it.
draft, or are you talking about like now?
I would say now, still, AJ Brown's better than DK
No,
Metcalf.
he is definitely. But like you saying that DK is not a true number 1?
I think he is, but at the same time, if he didn't have Tyler Lockett to basically take care of a lot of the other routes, I would think he'd be a struggling one. Because I think
Interesting.
DK's strength is his go routes, is his strength to out muscle people. His weakness is really, people respect him on the deep route, and then he can burn them down underneath. His mid range, I don't think it's as strong if teams realize, hey, we got safety covering deep. We can double DK because we don't have to worry about the other side.
I think if you gave Josh Allen DK Metcalf right now, he would have like
Don't
14
get
plus touchdowns
listen. Don't
and
get it.
probably 1,500
2,000
yards.
yards.
Don't
I'm not even kidding. You probably have 14 plus
don't
touchdowns for
don't
1,500
get
plus yards.
don't get my comments twisted here. I mean, you could give me T. Higgins, and I think Josh Allen has a much better year, and he already had a great year.
I think T. Higgins is
The
incredibly
list,
overrated.
the list
I agree with you, Mike. I couldn't agree more.
I
T.
mean,
Higgins looks like Megatron, but he does not fucking play like Megatron.
I wouldn't. I don't think that's a fair comparison. I don't.
He's 6'4", 200 something pounds. I mean,
You don't look like Calvin Johnson at all. You go look up a picture
okay,
of Calvin Johnson.
I know
Go look
Calvin
up a picture.
Johnson is ridiculously large. Okay,
Like we talk of receivers. AJ Brown and DK Metcalf are more Calvin Johnson than T. Higgins is. So
I don't know if you could say that. I mean, I don't know. I just think when T. Higgins eventually moves on from the Bengals, he's gonna get the bag, and he's just gonna be okay.
anywho,
He will never be a top 10 receiver in football.
I'm gonna move on.
yeah,
All
because
right, is that okay?
Yep.
All right. I wanted
Sorry.
to just throw this segment out there just because we all have the guys we like in our draft, in this draft. So let me start by asking this. I need a simple yes or no answer from both of you. Would you be comfortable taking any receiver outside of that top 4 in the first round?
No.
Depends on the receiver we're talking about here.
So you wouldn't. I'm just saying any receiver outside of Brian Thomas, Roma Duns, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors. Would you be comfortable taking any receiver? Like
if you're going with those 4 or the field, I'm
outside
going to
of the
say
4.
no.
You're
But
not comfortable taking anybody outside of the 4.
there's people I am comfortable with. It's just I'm not comfortable with everybody.
Would you feel happy about it? Would you feel secured
It would
in
I
depend.
wouldn't
the
feel
future?
secure, but I also feel
Let's
like
turn this on you, Ben. What are you thinking here?
I don't think I'd be like super content, but I also feel like it's a committee, you know? Like I don't think that's the worst thing to have. I don't think that's a bad problem to have. Like
It's not. But at the same
that
time, let's say you draft the field. Are you think you're set for the next 3 years? That you're not going to go out and need in the next 2 years to go get another
Right.
guy? Because if you do, then it's a complete waste of a
Oh,
draft pick.
if you're drafting the field, you're not. That's not the only draft pick you're taking a wide receiver in this draft.
Then it's a waste.
I don't think it's a waste.
So
Low key.
what if you double dip though, Mike? What if you take a receiver in the first round and either the second round or the fourth round? Do you
I think
think
there's only 3 answers for me, and there's only one that I think's truly rational that sticks out. There's only one guy that I think makes rational sense that I want, and it's a Duns.
yeah.
I think he's going to be really. I mean, he honestly watching his college like highlights and everything, he kind of reminds me of Drake London.
Yeah, I see it.
What he reminds me of is I can't pinpoint a wide receiver on it, but what he reminds me of is a number 1 wide receiver because we'll go back to the Apple Cup, which is the big, for those who don't watch college football, it's the big game between Washington and Washington State. It is 4th and 2. The game is on the line. They are on their own 32-yard line. So if they turn the ball over, game's over because Washington State can just kick a field goal, put it out of reach. They run a jet sweep to Roma Duze, and he makes a critical move to get the first down, not cut up field for more yards. He says, I can get that first down, and he got the first down, and that told me everything I needed to know about Washington and their thoughts of Roma Duze, is that they know you put the ball in his hands, you're going to win the game. And if you have that much faith in a guy, I want that guy on my team.
He's got a
Bills
lot of those
take him, I'm
alpha
buying a
traits.
jersey.
He has a lot of those alpha traits for sure. I would be super happy if they got any of the top 3. Neighbors, Harrison. If they pulled that off, Brandon B needs a statue built. Like fucking.
It has already been
immediately.
confirmed that if the Bills take Marvin Harrison Jr., I am shaving Ben's head.
Yes.
Luckily,
yes,
I
that is
think
true.
Ben's hair is going to be safe because I
I
don't
think
think the
it's gonna be
Cardinals are.
just fine.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think the Cardinals are moving.
So we'll move on. We talked about Odun's neighbors in Harrison.
Odunze.
What do you? I can't even pronounce the guy's name. I've heard
Rome
so many different.
Odunze.
Odunze. Okay. All right. What do you think of Brian Thomas? He's not obviously in that same bucket as those guys, but he is probably within more reach. He's a bigger guy. He projects very well. A lot of potential with him. Again, more of like a project kind of receiver, but obviously there's a
You
lot
want
to
to know what
like
he
there.
is?
What
Brian
is he?
Thomas is cheap T. Higgins.
No,
Ooh.
no.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. T.
No.
Higgins
Oh,
coming into the league, project
man.
guy, same exact frame, same type of,
You could
same
say
type
that
of
about
game.
Keon Coleman.
But it's
There's a reason Brian Thomas is going to go higher. Is because he's got more
Keon's a
top end
burner.
speed. No, he's not.
Didn't he run like a 4? He ran a 4.4, didn't
Let
he?
me look this up. I'm looking this up because I need to put you in your place. All right. So
Oh,
Keon
no, he
Coleman ran
didn't.
a
No, he
four
didn't. Never mind.
six.
Yep.
So
I'm an
no.
idiot. No, I'm thinking of, who am I thinking of then?
You are out
What
of
am I
here.
okay, I don't even know who Keon Coleman is then
And
because
Brian
I'm
Thomas ran
picturing
a low 4.3.
Keon Coleman plays for Florida State there,
I
my
knew
dude.
that, but what
Are you
the
thinking of
fuck?
Johnny Wilson?
Keon
I think
Coleman's 213?
I'm thinking you're thinking of Troy Franklin.
I think I am too.
I think you're mistaking him.
Yeah, I think
Let
you
me look
are.
up Troy Franklin's
Troy
40
Franklin won a
time.
4.4.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely thinking of Troy
Yeah,
Franklin.
Brian Thomas, like I said, he's not like your T. He's got juice. Like he's not just I'm gonna throw it up to this statue, and he's got some pop. So
Okay, so fuck Keon Coleman. If we draft a guy with a 4.6 anywhere in the top 2 rounds, I'm sorry, no fucking way will I be happy with that in
I'm
any
looking up T Higgins
capacity.
40 time right now, just as a comparison. Yeah,
It's
T Higgins
definitely
ran a
better than 4.6.
4.59.
Fuck,
It's
I probably run a
4.59.
4.6.
You
I
would
could
not run a
promise you,
4.6. You would run a
you do
Okay,
not.
5.6.
I wouldn't, but you know what I'm saying.
You run. We'll test that on Monday. I bet you run a
I
6.6.
Probably an 8.6, but besides the point.
all right. Oh jeez.
Don't be saying things you can't
Joey's still
back up.
kind of like T. Higgins. I mean, shit. Close 40.
Yeah. 4.59 is T Higgins' time. So T Higgins is only 6'3". He feels taller than that. But Thomas is 6'4". So T Higgins weighs 216. Let's see how much Thomas weighs. He
I mean,
weighs 209, 6'3", 32-inch arms, runs a 4.3. Like I don't think the T Higgins thing is fair to compare him to. He's a different player. I don't think it's the same player at all.
I mean, a lot of it also for me. We talk about Brian Thomas Jr. Same thing I said a little bit earlier is that we're breaking him down. You gotta almost have to figure out, can he be a leader? Can he be the guy, or are you going to have to get, other guys around him? Because it goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier. He was a number two at his college, and he wasn't even the second option on a play. Obviously his quarterback's Jaden Daniels, so the first option was just scramble and go. Second option was throw it to Malik Neighbors, and third option would be Brian Thomas Jr. So now you got to look at it and say, okay, is this guy capable of being my franchise wide receiver that carries Josh Allen to the future? Or is this like a Rashid Rice situation where, you know what, I need somebody else and he could be my extra piece. He could be the missing puzzle piece to my problems. So, which I mean, I think if you're getting Brian Thomas, you're also getting Leggett out of South
I
Carolina,
like Leggett.
or you're
Well, I
getting
think if it's a Rasheed Rice situation, stay far away from them.
oh
Yeah.
boy, keep him
Uh,
keep him keep him slow cars.
all right. Let's get another hypothetical out there.
All right.
So they do draft a receiver. We don't know who it is. Let's just say for this scenario, they don't trade up for Dunze or any of these guys. It could be Brian Thomas, but anybody named Brian Thomas or anybody else, other than the Dunze Harrison group, you know what I'm talking about. That guy's brought in there to be a receiver. Who do you think gets the most targets this year?
Kincaid.
I agree.
And then Curtis Samuel.
I'll give you a little wild card here. I would think Khalil Shakir.
Shakir would lead the team in targets.
I
Really?
think he's very much coming into that Cole Beasley role. And when Cole Beasley first showed up on the scene in 2019, I'm pretty sure the number one wide receiver in the Buffalo Bills was Cole Beasley.
I'm getting real fucking tired of this Khalil Shakir just rose-colored glasses. I get it. He had 3 good games. Okay. I'm going to start calling him Gabe Shakir. All right. I can't take it anymore. Okay. I'm not saying he'll be bad. But if he leads this team in targets, call us a fucking second round exit all over again. Because he ain't it. He's cool. He's a nice piece. He's not the answer.
I think Kincaid.
Again,
It's got to be
you
Kincaid.
you asked me who gets the most targets. You didn't say who's going to be wide receiver number one, who's going to lead in yards, who's going yada yada. You just said targets.
Most targets typically is wide receiver one.
I mean, the targets usually
I would say
translate to the best production.
I would say targets mean, hey, it's 3rd and 4. You need 5 yards. Who you going for 5 yards? And I think right now, I mean, again, you give me
That's a very
hypothetical.
specific scenario, though.
Exactly. You're also giving
like,
me a very specific hypothetical here where
Not necessarily. I mean, it's just who's going to get the most targets, not who's going to get the most third down slant routes.
Yeah, I mean,
who's the Rams wide receiver one?
Puka.
Ooh, is it Puka or is it Cooper?
I think it's Puka this year now.
I mean, again,
who's
Puka
the Bengals wide receiver one?
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
And who led them in targets?
Jamar Chase.
Who is, when healthy, the Vikings wide receiver one?
Justin Jefferson.
And who leads them in targets? It's not KJ Osborne.
It's not Jordan Addison.
Here is.
It actually probably was Jordan Addison this year because Jefferson was.
I'm saying healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get your point. I mean, I think it's Kincaid just for the fact they spent a first-round pick on the guy. They're super high on him.
It's great.
I mean, Josh is very comfortable with giving him the ball. Like, even as a rookie, like he was getting serious volume since Joe Brady took over as OC. Like, he got the ball a lot. There was games where he had 12, 13 targets. I think that New England game
he had 91 targets in the year.
Yeah, that New England game, that disaster of a game where we lost to the Patriots somehow. He had a really good game. He just got the ball a lot, and I think they trust him in this offense, even as a young player, like that he can do very well. And obviously, you know, Joe Brady's familiar with Curtis Samuel, in that role. So I think it'll be Kincaid, and then maybe the following year you'll see that rookie receiver, depending on who it is, get the more targets. But really,
what if Kincaid really is just the man, though? I mean, he had 91 targets this year, 73
I feel
catches.
like the team is operating under that belief, Mike. I feel like the team is operating under the belief that the future of this offense is James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. And I am perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Because
I still want Rome Odunze, though. Not gonna lie to you.
You should still want a boundary receiver. You should still want a guy who you can trust to throw the ball on a fade route and win you the game. You need that. You know, the Shakir, come up with big catches. Sure, he's a clutch player. I think he's earned that tag for now, at least.
I think Curtis Samuel's a slot guy, though.
Yeah, but I think it is Khalil Shakir. Has he done enough to really warrant being a top 2 receiver? No, he hasn't. And so I think it's a very fair assessment to say that Dalton Kincaid is going to be your leader in targets going into this year or after this year.
So I think it's going to be him or Samuel.
I don't know. We'll see with Samuel. I mean, health.
He had 91 last year.
With him. Health has been a question mark with him. So
I've already lost a plot.
I don't know. Can you really say that though?
Was the question here if they draft like Ladd McConkey as their number 1 wide receiver?
Yes, because I honestly, all things aside, I think Ladd McConkey is who they're going to end up drafting. To be completely honest,
that would be something.
Actually, hang on a second here.
I don't think he's terrible.
Before we shift gears, while we're on draft hypotheticals, Mike, I went on Twitter.com, and my favorite Twitter account, @BillsAccess, tweeted out Mock Draft 7.0. What would you think about round 1, pick 28? The Bills pick a defensive end.
I would think, wow, that is so Brandon Bean.
Damn, that's tough.
It is tough. It is very fucking tough.
Folks in the comments, leave your reactions to Ben thinking that they're going to pick a defensive end and run
It's
one.
not that's what I think they're gonna do. It was just the sake of avoiding redundancy. I mean,
So we're trying to get the audience involved.
We need
yeah,
accuracy. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I like to switch things up. I don't like to mock the same guy every time. Like I've done Adonai Mitchell. That's an interesting fit. I like Adonai Mitchell. I
A
feel like
lot of
he's got
people
more.
like him.
Yeah, he's got more upside than a guy like McConkey. He has more potential to be a good true number one than a McConkey. But there's a lot of things that people don't like about him. So there is some red flags with him as well. So I think as an organization, they're also gonna try to avoid that as much as they can because they just dealt with Stephon Diggs for 3 years, and I'm like pretty confident they were just like, thank God now that he's gone. So
Probably. Yeah.
yeah. Honestly,
I guess.
this episode was a lot longer than I think we all anticipated. We
I
had a lot off our
Let's
chest.
talk about.
I didn't think it.
Yeah, we talked about some random shit. To be completely honest, but
Hey,
it covered everything. So
by the way, folks listening, please feel free to leave your comments and questions
yeah,
for next episode. We will get to those,
of
hopefully.
course. Yeah, we'll probably do a Q&A. There is a possibility that we might be going live with another podcast before the draft on a Monday. The Monday before the draft. So keep an eye out for that. Buff Sports
Be
Talk.
ready, folks.
That might be something. So
If you listen to the media, the Bills are either trading back or trading up. You never
Hopefully
know.
by then something.
or they could stay put. All right.
Oh, we know that ain't happening.
That's not fun. Okay. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode, and we should probably be live next week. We'll see. A lot of draft stuff coming up. We're getting closer, so an exciting time of the year, and well, thank you guys for tuning in.